Another legal win for New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft and his legal team. A judge says he will not hold Kraft's lawyers in contempt. Prosecutors had asked for the contempt ruling because they claim Kraft's lawyers falsely said a Jupiter police officer would lie about a detail in the case. Kraft is accused of paying for sex at a day spa in Jupiter. A short time ago, CBS 4's Jim Defede discussed the story with a couple of reporters who have been looking into the former owner of the spa.
Cindy Yang is interesting. She's a sort of serial entrepreneur is how we think of her. And she came to the country from China back in 2003, ended up starting a series of day spas, one of which would become Orchids of Asia Day Spa, where Robert Kraft went, and sort of became an up-and-comer in South Florida through that scene. But one of the businesses that she pivoted to in recent years was a business of access peddling, essentially.
Now, let me just stop there. I just want to be clear. Was she at the time that Robert Kraft was allegedly inside doing something illicit, was she the owner of the spa, or had she sold the spa and was no longer the owner?
She was no longer the owner.
She was no longer the owner at that time.
At that time of that spa, no. She did own other spas. She owned a chain called Tokyo Day Spas. And so there were still about 3 of those spas in existence in Palm Beach and Broward counties at the time, but they were not part of the bust. They were not part of any of the allegations about sex trafficking.
So you stumble across her name as a former owner. Why do you continue to take interest? And what happens as you start digging around her profile on social media? When was that moment? Tell me about the moment when suddenly you look at her social media posts and you see pictures of her with Donald Trump.
Sure. So I think we were just looking to see if there was any possibility that this sting was going to extend into South Florida. And that was the reason for digging deeper and deeper into these business records. But I think just going through that exercise showed me that she had businesses beyond spa businesses. And one of them was a foundation, a women's charity foundation that never really filed any tax returns, didn't show up in 990s in the way that you would expect. And it turns out it had a Facebook page. When I clicked on that Facebook page, I saw Mar-a-Lago, and I saw Cindy Yang at Mar-a-Lago, so I kept on clicking. And that's when we saw Cindy Yang with Donald Trump watching the Super Bowl, watching the Patriots win the Super Bowl.
It all becomes highly intriguing is when a woman by the name of Yujing Zhang in late March shows up out of thin air at Mar-a-Lago and tries to connive her way in, succeeds, getting past a Secret Service agent and eventually getting into Mar-a-Lago, but she's eventually stopped. And it turns out she gets arrested for trespassing. They charge her, and it looks like just a simple trespassing case. At first, it looked like she was just another one of these people who was buying access to the president by attending an event at Mar-a-Lago. Well, then it turns out the event had been canceled. Then it turns out...
And it was Cindy Yang's event, supposedly.
Correct. And
right.
I should have made that clear, but it was Cindy Yang's event. And it was, you know, a gala event that had been canceled, but she came all the way to the United States and South Florida anyway and tried to get in. And so I started checking with my sources, and then I began to realize that there had been a counterintelligence investigation going on since late last year into all of these Chinese nationals that were coming to Mar-a-Lago.
So the fact that ordinary people had sort of crossed paths with folks in power there at Mar-a-Lago made it a softer target than a lot of other places. You weren't going to walk into the White House the way you could walk into Mar-a-Lago.
Correct. And what also became apparent was this woman, Yujing Zhang, was an educated Chinese woman, finance background. She spoke some English, and she was charged with lying to a federal agent and trespassing, but she had come in with a stash of money and a stash of electronics and supposedly malware. And so the suspicion was she was trying to gather information at Mar-a-Lago.
So when you say electronics, are we talking about like thumb drives, jump drives that could be, that potentially you plug it into one of the systems at Mar-a-Lago and then maybe see if it sort of works its way into something more sensitive?
Correct. Either to gather information or to spread misinformation.
That's intriguing, for sure. And you can see the rest of that discussion Sunday morning at 11:30 on Facing South Florida right here on CBS 4. Well,